If there's one character in Family Guy that fans almost universally hate, it's Doug. People really seem to hate this kid with a passion. Just look at these Reddit threads. There's tons. Debuting in season 17, Quahog's smuggest kid soon became a regular character, appearing in 4 whole seasons. But that's until he was unceremoniously killed off screen in season 20.
Oh, and Doug died in a commuter plane crash this morning.
But why was he so hated? And is that the real reason why the producers decided to kill him off? Well, let's get into it. So Doug made his first ever appearance in season 17's Island Adventure, where he and Stewie have some friendly banter about their big wheels.
Oh, I was just gonna drive through some puddles and see how long my tracks stay wet.
Oh yeah, and you may recognize this voice if you watch Rick and Morty, because he's played by Chris Parnell, who also voices Jerry.
Pluto's a planet.
He's a great actor who's done tons of other voice work, but I'll get into that a bit more later. However, Doug wouldn't appear again until the final episode of season 18, when he asks to borrow Stewie's spade.
I'm digging a hole.
A hole? Where are you going? China?
That's the hope.
In these 2 brief appearances, Doug and Stewie simply seemed to have a friendly rivalry, which then began to change in season 19's La Famiglia Guy. During Susie Swanson's christening, Stewie is approached by Doug.
So your mom's still taking you to the ladies' room to go pee-pee?
Actually, yes.
Yeah, me too.
And when Peter becomes the godfather, Stewie lords this in Doug's face, as well as bringing up that his parents are divorced.
What was that, Stewie? I was invited to sit at the first grade table.
What? How'd you get that invite?
From here, Doug would become a semi-recurring character, appearing 4 times in season 19 alone. In one episode, we learn that Stewie is secretly jealous of Doug.
God, he's so cool, I hate it.
And in another, Doug takes on a more antagonistic role by giving Stewie a cruel nickname.
Hey, Poopy Thumb!
It was golden spicy brown mustard from my sandwich. How many times do I have to say it?
Okay.
These appearances were pretty brief, but in the episode Meg Goes to College, he gets a much bigger role. Here Brian looks into getting into shape and fires his former trainer Stewie in favour of Doug.
You're going to have to unlearn everything Stewie taught you. Fortunately, that was almost nothing.
Brian starts to feel bad, so he makes up an excuse and fires him.
Hey, whoa, there's no need for that.
And right towards the end of the episode, Brian helps Doug down the stairs.
Adios, Doug.
From hell's heart I stab at thee.
Now, I think this was the point where the writers really tried to hint that Doug would become Stewie's full-time rival. This is because his appearances then increased to 5 episodes in the next season. So yeah, in the premiere of season 20, Doug got his largest role yet. Because after dropping Stewie off at preschool, Lois accidentally runs Doug over.
Nice hit, bitch! Oh, and Elsa underwear. This day just keeps getting better.
And instead of suing her, his parents get them to babysit Doug and build him a treehouse. But when the guys come over, Doug and Chris form their own rivalry as they fight over Herbert.
Oh, hey, Doug.
Are you kidding me?
But that's not the end of it, because they are then forced to attend Doug's Little League game. And when they come over the next day, Doug gives them yet another long to-do list. But Stewie's had enough and calls Doug's dad to end it, soon learning that it was Doug all along who kept bringing them back. Doug comes clean, explaining that he is just very lonely because his dad is never around. And feeling sorry for him, they come to an understanding that they will hate each other in public, but play nice in private. In 80s Guy, the complexities of their relationship only deepens when they fight over a frisbee and get stuck on a jungle gym. It's here they have a heart-to-heart and Doug apologizes.
For always showing you up and just being a jerk.
And Stewie admits that he's always been jealous of him.
Anyway, deep down, I've always wanted your approval.
So, as a symbol of their friendship, Stewie eventually gives Doug the frisbee, who then immediately starts acting like a jerk.
Other kids, Stewie lost and he deserves our ridicule.
Before Doug can climb down and win, Stewie chases him and they fight. Doug slips and Stewie grabs hold of him just in time, but when Stewie falls, it turns out that they weren't really that high up after all. And so Doug declares to the other kids that he and Stewie retrieve the frisbee together.
I hope we've come to see each other through slightly different eyes.
We certainly have.
So, you'd think that Stewie and Doug would be best buds by now, right? Well, wrong, because in the 5th episode, Doug is back to being a pretentious prick.
Jeez, why are you always such a dick?
Takes one to know one.
Where did you learn that? That's great!
But the two would have a strangers on a train moment when they discuss their issues with their stuffed animals, and they come to an arrangement about helping each other out.
I kill Chi-Chi, you kill Miss Tiggy Winkles. Nobody could ever connect us to the crimes.
So Doug sneaks in and eliminates Chi-Chi, but when Stewie goes to return the favour, he learns that Miss Tiggy Winkles is a real cat, and realising he just can't go through with it, he then tries to warn the cat by waking her up and telling her to run away. Only to find out that Doug had already killed the cat, and it was a setup all along to pin the blame on Stewie as blackmail. Stewie then learns that Doug has his own dog who makes him feel inadequate.
Who is that?
That's Tyler. He's, kind of my dog.
Boy, we all get a Doug, huh?
And then in the 6th episode of the season, Doug plays doctor and gives Stewie the fatal diagnosis of the cooties.
I think you need to get your affairs in order.
I don't have any affairs. I'm one.
And then in the 8th episode, Stewie accidentally gives Doug a nosebleed and is sent to detention and becomes a bad boy. I have to say that I think this point was where the fans were really starting to get sick of Doug. Like, there was a big dose of Doug in this season. He appeared 5 times in the first 8 episodes of season 20, and to be honest, it was all a bit much, especially if you found him annoying, which many fans did. What's interesting is that I think the producers realised that they may have pushed Doug a bit too hard in this season, because by season 21 he only appeared in 2 episodes, only saying 1 line in episode 8.
We heard about what you did, Stewie. No one wants to play with you.
And in the 10th episode entitled The Candidate, he's actually killed off. Now, to remind you, the plot of this is that Stewie and Doug compete against each other for preschool snack captain. And things start to get a bit dirty when Doug tries to discredit Stewie.
Oh, he nailed you!
I'm voting for Doug.
I'm too young to deliver a joke.
Stewie tries to dig up dirt on Doug and finds out that he still uses a pacifier. But Doug hits back by exposing that Stewie was an accident.
Oh my god.
A mistake?
He's a big fat phony!
Okay, I think I know whose kid that is.
And by the end of the episode, Stewie wins the election and says this.
Oh, and Doug died in a commuter plane crash this morning.
When I first watched this, I didn't really think anything of it. Cartoon characters die all the time only to come back by the next episode. But the next one came around, and then the next one, and Doug didn't return. And we've had a whole season since then, and Doug still hasn't made a single appearance. So it looks like, for now at least, that Doug is officially dead. But I wanted to dig a bit deeper, so I went onto Reddit to discover why there was all the Doug hate, and if it led me into a definitive answer as to why he was killed off. Now, most of the comments are just saying things like because he sucked or because he was annoying, and another one I read was, anytime I hear Doug speak, I want to rip his head off. And then there was this one person who described him as an annoying, fat-headed, narcissistic piece of shit. Lovely. But then I found a few comments that explained things a bit better. In my opinion, he represents the new Family Guy. He's very one-dimensional. He's Stewie but rich, Stewie but a bigger jerk, Stewie but more popular in class. He does not elicit authenticity. The jokes originate from does X better than Stewie, and it ends pretty much there. Another user called Featherwolf explained that he was terrible, if nothing else because Stewie never once was able to best him. A rivalry is fine as long as 2 sides constantly one-up each other, but Doug was just a smug ass who never got what he deserved. But to boil it all down, the general consensus is that he was way overused. And the general opinion suggests that his smugness was irritating and that it took away from Stewie's specialness. Stewie was unique in that he was one of very few babies that could actually talk. And sure, they did previously introduce Olivia and Penelope, but they were only guest characters. They didn't hang around, whereas Doug really did seem to overstay his welcome. Personally, I never minded Doug. In fact, I wasn't even aware that he was so unpopular until very recently. He made me laugh a few times, but at the same time, it's not like I'm begging for his character to come back. And when I really thought about it, I'm not even sad that he left. And maybe that says a lot about his character. Personally speaking, I think Rallo would have made a better foil for Stewie. I think they could have played off each other really well as they were different enough where one could be better at some things, where the other one was weaker. But then, we all know that isn't happening because the Family Guy writers like to pretend that the Cleveland show never ever happened. So now we come to the ultimate question. Why did they kill off Doug? And seeing as the producers never gave an official reason, I'm gonna have to propose 3 possible reasons as to why. The first being, as already mentioned, he was so hated, and if the producers were aware how hated he was, then that could have well been a big enough reason why they would have got rid of him. They tried Doug out, and he wasn't welcome, so they killed him off. Simple. The other reason is that they just didn't know what else to do with him. They had him in a lot of episodes, so maybe they just ran out of ideas, especially because he can only work well against Stewie because it's not like he could have had a storyline against Peter, say. He was pretty limited with his interactions. Now, the third reason why is that the actor Chris Parnell just didn't want to come back for whatever reason. He's a pretty busy guy. When he's not voicing Jerry in Rick and Morty, he's also lending his voice to dozens of other animated shows. He also guest stars in many live action shows too, like he was just in Fallout recently. So yeah, it's also possible that he is just too busy to commit to a reoccurring role on Family Guy. But you know what, maybe it's a combination of all 3. I can't say for certain, but let me know what you think. And did you guys hate Doug? Or do you want him back? Let me know in the comments.